Wait for it. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to let Alan speak because I just asked him to run the agenda. So I will take that.
So now I can say, hi, everyone. It's the Mir office hours. We had one last month. We'll have one next month. And we're having one this month. We had an agenda item saying actions from the previous meeting, but I have a feeling that we didn't record any actions in the previous meeting, so we can probably move on from that. And I'll let Suffolk take over because he ran the Mir 2.21 release.
All right. So let me actually remind myself. So 2.21 is actually a long time coming release, as in it took us a month to release from when we branched it. Alan, can you open the link for the release notes? But yeah, so there's a big focus of ours over the past months is accessibility. So we've implemented a couple of features there, like cursor scaling and mouse keys, and key repeat and such. What else is here? We implement digital level tiled states, which means that we now tell surfaces that they are being tiled and they should adapt their decorations to on the edges that are tiled. And then Alan updated the core Wayland extensions because we were quite behind. The rest of it, I think, is kind of less important. And there was just one bug fixed. Like I think this was the least bugs that we fixed in the release, even though it was a full one and long running, but still just one bug with kind of like I explained by like there's less bugs to fix, just features. So that's a good thing. And yeah, so it's out now. There was a point release that just dealt with packaging, and I think that's it. Anything to add? Miriway is on top of it, and all of those options are available there.
Cool. I guess there's no questions about that. Back to the agenda.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
So don't click on the link. In this case, like the link is actually just to all of the PRs that we had since roughly since 2.21. But I kind of picked out the important bits. Again, it's going to be a significant one. And so sync objects is another kind of long coming thing, but something that we needed to do, we wanted to do, and it's now in. It will allow us to, for example, not be scared about what EGL Wayland 2 will bring from Nvidia. That's happening because we have sync objects now. On the Nvidia topic, we are trying to move away from EGL streams, and we expect 2.22 to work fine on just GBM. So this will be the first step to drop EGL streams. More magnification, more accessibility support. Magnification is one of that, simulated secondary click, and possibly a couple others as well. Alan's worked on live configuration helpers, which give shells the ability to, and the helpers to kind of monitor a file or whatever else config source or data source, and then react to that and adapt settings live, right? So this is for like needed for all of the settings that you usually have. It will be needed for one of the features that well, Neil, you were asking about, and that's local one, right? And this could be part of that story where we actually react to that device interface.
Right.
On the other side, on the kind of graphics platform side, we got Atomic KMS last time or the previous time, and now we have bypass there. So if you have a full screen surface, the compositor is going to sit to the side and just let the thing through. And a small but important feature, overlay cursor, is now supported in screencopy. And I think that's all I picked out from a quick glance at it.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, so Miriway, this relies on a feature that Savik didn't mention in the previous list, that supports dealing with some of the Wayland internals from this server side, and that allows Miriway to implement support for ext-workspace. There is a small demonstration of that on YouTube. It works more or less with, well, it works with the XKCD shell, XCF. Oh, I've lost
XFC.
it. XFCE, that's the one.
But we should do an XKCD shell. That would be something.
We should, yes. Won't play the video now. You can follow the link if you want to. That should all be available once Mir 2.22 ships. It's landed in Miriway, but it has to turn itself off with earlier versions of Mir. And the testing I did was on Ubuntu 25.10 because everything is in place to actually use it there. So there's that. And any questions?
So you added an overlay cursor to screen copy. So what about related to that? What about the no X image capture stuff? Like, where's that on the planning?
On the roadmap for this cycle, so we'll get to those relatively soon. And well, plan is to have them latest by October, by 2020.
Okay. Yeah. Also with the live configuration helper stuff in MirAL, is the idea that then a compositor could then expose like a way to run an executable or a service listener or something like that, that it could then poke it and update things? Like what's the idea of how that interface works?
So the way that interface works is that configurable parts of the MirAL layer, so things that you can change, like simulated secondary click timings, to take an example that's just been mentioned, can hook into an interface that allows the shell to implement a way of updating that. And MirAL also contains an example of doing that from a text file, similar to the existing NE file. And it also provides a way of monitoring when a file has changed so that a reload can happen. So those can be pasted together fairly easy just to implement those configuration changes in response to the file changing. But those changes could also be sourced from something else, like G settings.
Okay. So there are two reasons why I was asking that. First, of course, you know about the locale1 thing that I want to get to at some point and actually figure out. But the other one is figuring out the accessibility shortcuts monitor, right? Like, so AT systems like Orca, they expose what listener key bindings that they want to use. Is there, and having a way to propagate that without having to essentially duplicatively store them is basically what I'm thinking of, because I want screen readers to work, basically. And screen readers mostly work for people by using magic key bindings that win over everything else. And that is not a straightforward thing to have without some kind of compositor integration.
So what you're saying is Orca is asking the compositor for its own settings in a way, or is that what's expected to happen?
Yeah, so basically Orca has its own expectations of key bindings that it exports and tells you about. And it has a dbus interface called keyboard monitor. And basically you could think of it kind of like a filter layer, like key bindings go through it. If filter monitor says that it reacts to this binding, it doesn't pass through to anything else. The thingy goes and does the stuff. Orca reacts to it and so on, because Orca key bindings have to win over basically everything else. Otherwise, they're not effective.
Right. So I don't think that this is that. It's something else that we'd have to do. And I wonder if it's an opportunity for something more standard these days, or it would have to be a explicit implementation of it for the keyboard monitoring dbus interface, right? In MirAL.
Yeah, so like what Cosmic does is they have a custom Wayland protocol for handling this, that they wrote. And what GNOME and KDE are using is a dbus interface that's implemented by Orca to, so the compositor listens to the dbus interface and does the thing. Either approach would work. The only reason the Cosmic one is, I guess, not in upstream Orca is because the protocol is not standardized in Wayland protocols, and that's the basic requirement for that to move further. So I don't really care which approach we go for, but like we should figure out what that approach is and do something towards it. Because I would like for accessibility services to work. Right now, for both MirAL and Fedora LXQt, to my eternal chagrin, for the Wayland sessions, they have all the accessibility services switched off because they don't work. And there's no point in having toolkits try to go look for an accessibility service that's not there when the service doesn't work. So this is something, I don't know, Matt, if you've been thinking about this, as part of MirAL development, but this is something I've been thinking about as part of Fedora LXQt, and also the fact that I've been working on KDE accessibility. Is like, this is something that I would like to close gaps on relatively quickly if we can. I mean, again, roadmaps and time allotments permitting, but like these are things that are kind of becoming more of a priority to figure out solutions for, especially with the lead times that it takes to actually implement something. Figuring out what we want to do is quite important.
Yeah, it sounds like something that it's in line with what we've been doing, and obviously the new European Union accessibility stuff just tells us that we have to do it, and so that's why.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much why it became a priority, is because everyone's like, "Oh yeah, no, I can't ship or touch your stuff because these things are happening now." It's like, crap. Okay.
Yeah, but what you're describing sounds more along the lines of global shortcuts than it does live configuration.
It is, except for this has to win over even global shortcuts. That's kind of so like that's the only thing that makes it special, is it has to win even over application global shortcuts. It can't compete with them.
So that sounds like something like we're working on a design for the global shortcuts protocol extension, and that's something that we take into account, like a priority kind of story, where either it's configurable in the compositor, so you get a client, it maybe identifies itself as a screen user through the auth protocols or something. And then that gets priority, right? Or we just build it into the shortcut extension, but probably like this can be easily abused, right? So I don't know. It's easy to just build it into the protocol. My global shortcut has higher priority than your global shortcut, right? But if we want to think about it but there's a malicious thing that now wants to even prevent Orca or sit on a different global shortcut, then that's something that we might want to think about in this context.
Yeah, no,
but
and probably what might make sense is that for the global shortcuts protocol, we have tagged categories. And those tagged categories, like there's specifically defined types of tag categories, and one of them is AT. And if it's an AT category, the compositor knows that that policy has to win above it, and the compositor can say, hey, only these application, like we can have a way to say, only these application IDs can actually send AT type shortcuts, and the rest of them can't, or something like that. I mean, this is what's coming off the top of my head as part of this conversation.
Mm. Okay, possibly.
Okay. Can we move to any other business?
Yeah, I guess so.
Does anyone have any other business?
I do have something.
Oh, do tell.
Yes. I would like us to have an equivalent to the PPA for Mir for Fedora. So I'd like to have a copper for Mir, because Matthew is still not testing against Mir Dev on Fedora, and then when he makes releases, they don't work, and that's not super awesome. And but
although
also
now,
like,
now I do test between MirDev, at least on Ubuntu, so we at least know if I compile against MirDev generally.
but also
As
like the last Budgie meeting that I was in, so we have our Budgie desktop stand-up meetings every week on Saturdays. Last week, we basically decided that for Budgie 11, we're going to probably build our own compositor on top of the Mir toolkit. I think that is going to be easier for us to like work with you guys and chase development, having, integrating some way for when you guys are doing, as you're doing your Mir dev, it also produces, in addition to the Ubuntu PPA, it produces a Fedora copper that has builds of the stuff to consume and use and play with. Because right now it's just slightly too hard to do that, and I don't really want to do this manually because that sucks. So I would like to see if we can, if you guys are amenable to implementing, upstream automated builds of stuff based on pull requests and git master and whatever.
Just tell us how.
Okay, so the answer is yes, you're okay with it. Then I need to go figure out how to do it.
We're more than okay. Like we run on GitHub Actions. When we push the main, we just push the source package for Mir into the PPA. We can do the same for Fedora. We just have to work out, so where does the packaging live, and where do credentials live? What do we need to do? If you can show me a project that does this from GitHub Actions already, then I can borrow some of that stuff and just hit me up and let's do it.
Yeah. So actually, one that does do this is one of the projects that I worked on some time ago, which is RPM lint, and we use a service called Packet, and Packet is capable of essentially being linked up into Copper and doing stuff like building based on pull requests, based on branches, on tags, and whatever. It can also, when you do tag releases, it can basically propose to the downstream Fedora packages that, hey, a new version's out or whatever. That part doesn't actually need to go into upstream because I can actually do that quite differently I can do that in Fedora dist-git. But there's basically there's a GitHub app you can add, and then you add configuration to make it do the stuff. Also, even if we weren't using this, I think the Cloudinit guys have their own automation for being able to do this with coppers. So if you want to follow kind of the same path that the Cloudinit guys do, then we can do that as well, because they have a copper group for Cloudinit, and they have a fast group and stuff like that. And they wired up their automation so that they do have regular builds of Cloudinit for RPM distributions and copper, so that the people can test it and stuff like that. And so that's also another approach that can be used. I am not entirely sure how they do it, but I know that they do it because when I contribute to their project, they tell me to go test things with it.
Okay, so I will go and yeah, first thing I'll do is just ask the clouding guys how do they do it, and if it's something that we can do, then we can. That obviously works on our infra where it works, so we should be able to do the same.
Yep. Whatever, if you want, whatever approach, either way, I can make a spec file to send upstream to put into the Mir source tree so that you can integrate it with whatever model of things that you want. Because like that's essentially the other things, right? We have to have something to build packages with. So so that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I think the last time I did, which was admittedly several years ago, it was like, no, we don't really want this. But at this point, we're now seeing a lot more adoption, and people want to do development of Mir things on Fedora. And I'd like to make that easier for people to essentially chase what you guys are working on and give you feedback much more easily.
We'll chase that up then.
All righty. So I'll prepare something, and then we can kind of figure out what the implementation of how this will work based on what you find out from the other teams or whatever approach we want to go with.
Yeah. One caveat: if it breaks our CI, then I will be chasing you.
I mean, you already chase me now when stuff happens, so I don't think that's an issue.
Right. So right now we do build on Fedora, right? So like it's only the packaging bit that would happen. I think it would be appropriate for us to right now we just build manually, but like just move that to actually build a package. That would be that would be good. And then if it's fine, then just push it, and we'll know soon enough from CI that when it doesn't work, and we can sort it out then. But yeah, we'll probably need help.
Yep, that's fine. As you know, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay. Just thinking about the goals of this COPRA, would it also make sense to pull in some of Mir's downstreams into that same archive, such as MirAL and Miriway?
I would think so. It would be. It is something I wanted to broach the topic with Matt at some point about setting it up so that we produce a copper of MirAL based on him doing development, because but in order to do that, we also need the builds of Mir first.
Yes, of course.
Same goes for Miriway, right? Like I think it's a good idea to get all of those in place. At least for Miriway, we can be flexible and use things like the packet app and whatever. That's fairly straightforward because it's not bound to the rules of the canonical GitHub organization, which makes things slightly harder. And same goes for MirAL. Like I can easily install the packet application and actually wire all the things up. The main prerequisite is figuring out whether Mir is going to do it, because if Mir doesn't do it, I can't do the others anyway.
We'll do it.
Cool. All right. So I mean, that kind of covers what I wanted to bring up, because like the Budgie folks are getting more interested in, once they get 10.10 out the door, you know, looking at building the new Budgie 11 experience and leveraging Mir as the library to build the compositor, because the current approach sucks. It is very difficult, and nobody wants to replicate the current approach a second time.
Yep. I've heard that from a few sources. Okay. Is that all the other business from everyone?
Nothing else for me.
Okay, going twice.
And that's a wrap.
Stop the recording. Thank you all.